I'd like to call to order the December 1st, 2025 reorganization meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors. If those who are able could please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Okay. Before we begin the board reorganization, I'd like to welcome Honorable Brian K. Marshall and ask him to come to the podium to preside over the swearing in of our newly elected and re-elected school board members.
All right, Directors Anderson, Barlow, Black, Damaris, and Huff, if you would, please stand. Raise your right hand to be sworn and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm.
I do solemnly swear or affirm.
That I will support, obey, and defend.
That I will support, obey, and defend.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of this Commonwealth.
And the Constitution of this Commonwealth.
And that I will discharge the duties of my office.
That I will discharge the duties of my office.
As School Board Director.
As School Board Director.
With fidelity.
With fidelity.
Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you very much, Judge Marshall, and welcome to all of our new board members, and welcome back to those re-elected. We're glad that you're all here. Thank you, Judge Marshall. We greatly appreciate you taking time to join us this evening, and certainly you're welcome to leave whenever you wish. But we don't expect you to stay tuned for all of it. So at this time, we'll be electing a temporary president to preside over the reorganization as per the statute. Is there a nomination for temporary president?
I would like to nominate Jackie Huff.
Sorry. Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Are there any other nominations for temporary president? Okay, then without objection, I will close the nominations. All right, the nominations are now closed. Is there any discussion on the motion to elect Jackie Huff as temporary president?
I'd be happy to serve in this very short role. Thank you.
And we thank you for your service. Okay, any public comment on this motion? Okay, all those in favor of electing Jackie Huff as temporary president, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Huff. There you go. Feel powerful? And I will give this to you as well.
All right, welcome everyone to the board reorganization meeting. Is there a nomination for the office of president? Ms. Bader.
I'd like to nominate Deborah Anderson.
Is there a second for Deborah Anderson's nomination to president?
Yes, please.
Second
is the second.
Thank you. I'm rusty. Are there any additional nominations for president? Yes, Mr. Barlow.
I would like to nominate Aaron Miller.
Is there a second for Aaron Miller for president? Ms. Black.
I second.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any additional nominations for the role of president? All right, without objection then, I will close nominations. The nominations are closed. At this time, I would like to give Deb Anderson an opportunity to make remarks regarding her desire to serve in this position and what you hope to achieve.
Thanks, Jackie. Thank you, everyone, for the nomination for president of the board. I believe my experience as vice president for the past 2 years, as well as my 4 years of total experience as a board member, have prepared me well to transition to becoming president. In addition, I feel that my strong working relationship with members of the SCASD administrative team will aid me in the president's role as a liaison between the administration and the board. If elected, I will continue to work hard as part of the leadership team to help SCASD to realize our mission statement, to ensure every student has opportunities to grow, thrive, and fulfill their potential through caring, responsive education. I believe our decision-making should always prioritize what is best for our students. In my view, the role of board leadership is to be a facilitator. My only goal is to make sure that all voices are heard, to try to build consensus, and then do the work necessary to enact the group's decision. The most important thing to me is that we all work together as a team for the good of the district and the students and staff in our care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. At this time, I'd like to also give Mr. Miller, Dr. Miller, I'm sorry. You're on the other side of me tonight. Dr. Miller, I'd like to give you an opportunity to make remarks regarding your desire to serve in the position of president and what you hope to achieve.
Yes, so I don't really have any prepared remarks. I did want to thank members of the board who were interested in seeing me in this role for encouraging me to possibly pursue it. My goal, similar to Dr. Anderson, would be to serve in a way that makes sure that all board members are heard, that all board members are at the table and participating in the conversation. I would hope to continue to build trust within the district and within the community. And that's why I'm here. So I look forward to serving with the board in either role, or in any role, I should say.
All right, thank you so much. Is there any discussion from the board before we move forward? Dr. Bader.
Yeah, I just, departing from this role and having served in it for 2 years and 4 years as vice president, I have served with 2 superintendents, half a dozen assistant superintendents, numerous other directors, principals, and staff. And I think that I would just like to reiterate some thoughts that I shared by an email communication to the board when I shared that I was stepping back. And that would be that it's incredibly important that those in the role of leadership work hard to most definitely build trust, I think, with a number of constituencies. And that work can be extraordinarily challenging. It means being present primarily at all the places that you need to be present, at all the times that you need to be there. It means listening. It also means communicating with various stakeholders. And I will just share that having worked with Dr. Anderson for these past 2 years, I greatly appreciate her assistance in my role in this. She's been nothing if not dependable and reliable, and an excellent voice of thoughts that didn't occur to me in various times, making sure that all aspects of an issue are addressed as best we can all figure out between us. And I think it's just important that an element of expertise and experience be part of that role. So I'll leave it there.
Dr. Demo?
As the current policy chair, I want to express my thanks and support for Deb. Her consistent and careful contributions during the policy review process has made our schools better. I learned from her at every meeting. She was also part of a successful negotiation team as for that contract, the SCARE contract. She's a consistent presence at every school tour I've ever been on, so she's been on a lot. And she's built trust and key relationships with administrators across the district, and they are the ones that deserve consistency. And so her deliberative approach and expertise, I believe, will make their job easier and make our school strong. And I appreciate your efforts, so thanks.
Any further discussion from the board? Oh, Dr. Barlow.
Yes, I'll say a few things about Aaron. I've learned a lot about the system and about education from Aaron. He's extraordinarily knowledgeable about both. And I mean, I've had only a few months in this position, but you know, and I've had a lot to learn, and he's been very helpful on those issues. I've seen him make important points on committees like the Solar Power Purchase Agreement Committee and policy committees, and I think that he could do this role very, very well and help this board work as a group of 9 with the superintendent to make this keep making this a better district.
Any further discussion from the board?
I'll make just a short statement. I won't take up too much of your time. I will also be supporting Aaron tonight, and the reason is because he's not afraid of change. He's not afraid to admit when something's not going well and be vulnerable and listen to all voices, even if they don't agree with him. And he's also one of the few people I've ever encountered in my life who, even if an altercation of some sort occurs, he is willing enthusiastically to come back to the table and say, hey, let's talk about this some more, and invest the time and give others respect. No matter how they treat him, he still gives them respect. And again, that's something that I sorry, I think my sound is gone, but my light's on. That's also something that I find to be incredibly important in a leader. And I think that sometimes change is needed, and Aaron would provide change in a positive way and always prioritizes more than anything else K through 12 learning, which is the main reason that I'll be supporting him tonight, because that is the reason that we are here. So thank you for listening to my comments.
Thank you, Ms. Brandt. Any other comments from the board? All right, seeing no further discussion, are there any public comments? All right, hearing none, we will proceed. So because we have 2 nominees for president, I would now like to call on Lynn to perform a roll call of board members. When your name is called, please state the name of the individual, either Dr. Anderson or Dr. Miller, for whom you would like to cast your vote for president.
Dr. Anderson.
I'm going to vote for myself, Dr. Anderson.
Dr. Bader.
Dr. Anderson.
Dr. Barlow.
Dr. Miller.
Ms. Black.
Dr. Miller.
Ms. Brandt.
Dr. Miller.
Dr. Dino. Dr. Anderson. Ms. Damaris.
Dr. Miller.
Ms. Huff.
Dr. Anderson.
Dr. Miller.
All right, congratulations, Dr. Miller. I'd like to congratulate you as being the next president of the board. Next up, we need to elect a vice president. So is there a nomination for the office of vice president?
I'm going to nominate Deb Anderson.
Is there a second for Deb Anderson?
Yes.
Dr. Dino. Thank you so much. Is there another nomination for the office of vice president? Dr. Barlow?
I will nominate Rebecca Desmarais.
Is there a second for Ms. Damaris?
I second.
Is there another nomination for the office of vice president?
I'd like to nominate Ann Demo.
I'll second. All right, are there any additional nominations for vice president? All right, without objection, I will close the nominations. The nominations are closed. I have to actually say that. So, at this time, I would like to give Dr. Anderson an opportunity to make remarks regarding your desire to serve in the position of Vice President and what you hope to achieve.
Thank you again for the nomination to a leadership position. My earlier statements about serving as president apply equally to serving as the role of vice president. The president and the vice president have to work together as a team, and I am willing and have been willing to work with anybody in any fashion. I'm happy to serve the board in whatever capacity the board would like. Again, the most important thing to me is that we can all work together as a team for the good of the district and the students and staff. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Next, I would like to give Ms. Damaris an opportunity to make remarks regarding your desire to serve as Vice President and what you hope to achieve in this position. And if you'd like to say your name for everyone, just to clear it up, I would.
Perfect.
Yeah.
My last name is Damaris, so take out half the letters that are in it. It's just Damaris. I appreciate the nomination for this position. I know that I was just sworn in tonight. This is a new role for me to be in here, but this is not a new role for me for leadership. I have had many years of experience and leadership skills. I work extremely hard on trying to bring people together. I think it's a responsibility that I take seriously to want to bring our board and the people I'm surrounded together in respect and understanding, and I think working together is so important. I don't think you can go wrong with any of the three candidates for vice president. I think Deb has some amazing qualities. I think Ann has some amazing qualities. I think the ability to work with Aaron as president, any of us could do that. So you can't go wrong with whoever you vote for today. For myself, my role here is to just ask the questions, learn as I'm going. I'm happy to jump in feet first and learn and continue this role and to help our board as we go. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Damaris. Finally, I'd like to invite Dr. Demo to make any remarks regarding your desire to serve as Vice President and what you hope to achieve in this position.
Thank you. I'm willing to serve the district in any capacity with any of the board members. I did nominate Deb because I believe that expertise in this role and experience with the issues and the budget and all the kinds of policies that make a district work and make it easier for administrators, that's an important expertise that won't take their time away. And I do have some experience as the policy person for 2 years. I believe, as you mentioned, in terms of the importance of communication among the board and also making it streamlined communication with administration. So I do honor your expertise, Deb, and your service. And so I'm willing to serve, but I know in my heart you are much more qualified than I am. And so I just want to state that out loud and also be willing to, I want this district to thrive. I want all the students to thrive, and whatever I can do to make that happen, that's what I want to do. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Demo. Is there any discussion from the board on this item? Yes, Ms. Brandt.
Yeah, I just wanted to say why I will be supporting Rebecca Damaris for vice president. And that is because she has shown incredible leadership just throughout the time that she's been involved in SCASD, which is many, many years. And she is more penetrated within the community than virtually any of us sitting up here, maybe with the exception of Jen, in terms of relationships, relationship building, the ability to build relationships with people who are like herself, unlike herself. I mean, when I go hiking with her, we meet strangers on the trail to meet. She knows everybody. And her knowledge of the community and the families in this district is going to create a bridge between the community and the board. And that's something that is a treasure. She is a treasure, and we are so lucky to have her on this board. And I do not see a lack of experience or leadership in any way, shape, or form with Rebecca. She has it all already. In some areas, more than some of us who have been sitting up here quite a while. So that is why I will be supporting Rebecca Damaris. Thanks.
Dr. Miller, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to all three of you for your willingness to serve in this role. I think it's really important that we have, and I agree with what Ms. Damaris said. I think the district would do well. I think I could probably work with anyone, and the district would move forward and do really, really well. I echo a bit of what Ms. Brandt said about her. I found her to be very deliberative, very purposeful. I found her to be somebody who asks a lot of really good questions. I've also found her somebody who gives really great critical feedback and helps me be a better version of myself sometimes, and I greatly appreciate that. Dr. Demo and to some extent Dr. Anderson have done that as well. So just echoing my appreciation for all three of you.
Dr. Barlow.
Yes, I do want to talk about my own experience with Ms. Damaris and why I nominated her. I've had a number of conversations with her, and I kind of recognize as someone whose children are in their 30s that my direct contact with the district is mostly from information I get from here or information I got when I was knocking on doors in the campaign. And I occasionally talked to a teacher or a parent, and they would tell me something, or even one of the children who are still in the district, they'd tell me something. But I've learned a great deal from my conversations with Rebecca about how teachers and parents are experiencing the district. And that's a really important grounding for all of us when we make these decisions.
Any further discussion from the board? Dr. Anderson.
I just wanted to say a few words about Ann Demo and why I nominated her, even though I'm also nominated. She and I knew this was coming, and we grappled with it, and we both want what's best for the district. Ann is one of the most relationship-driven individuals I've ever met, and I think that she would do an incredible job working on all the relationships within the district, within the board, between the board and the administration, between the board and the community. I think she would be an asset in the leadership position. Every single board member has something valuable to offer to the board. And we are a team of 10 with the superintendent, and each individual only has a single vote. And then we move together as a team. So I think it's important to keep in mind that the role of leadership is to really facilitate getting someplace. It's to anticipate questions and concerns. I think any of us could do the job, but I do think having had some experience on the board in this actual position would be an asset to being a successful leadership, part of the leadership team from day one, because you won't be learning on the job quite so much. And I do want board members to think about that as they're making their selection. And that's not to denigrate what Rebecca has to offer. It's just to say, I do think having some experience on the board, like Ann does, like I do, would be incredibly helpful. I nominated Ann because it's clear to me that there are individuals on the board that want a change in leadership, and that's fine. Ann would be a change in leadership, but she would still offer some experience. And so I would encourage individuals to consider a vote for Ann. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Dr. Bader.
Yeah, I guess I'll just add one thought. Having served a decade on this board, I've met a lot of candidates. I've seen various board members come and enter into this role. And what I've often heard from those candidates and from those people are that they're so incredibly proud of our district, proud of the work that the board had been doing and had done, and wanted very much to be a participant in that and an individual to help keep that moving forward. And so I will also share that I do think some level of knowledge and understanding of the district in terms of from the board seat is really critical in leadership. To the point made earlier, part of that role is trying to anticipate potential challenges and to work through those from both sides of the equation, both problems that could arise for the administration and problems that could arise for the community and the board and the students, and trying to make sure that when we come to the table to make decisions, that all the critical pieces of information are there. And that that's a skill that takes time of being in the board seat, in my opinion. And I do know that, Rebecca, you have excellent relationships, and I certainly know that you would continue to build those. I just think that there is an element of, there's nothing like sitting in the board seat until you sit in it. And so I think that's an important piece of one of the things that is important to have in leadership. So, that's what I'll share, and I agree. I think that's an important thing for all board members to consider.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll check. Is there any public comment before we vote? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Similar to the last vote, because we have 3 nominees for vice president, I will now ask Lynn to perform a roll call of board members. When your name is called, please state the name of the individual for whom you would like to cast your vote for vice president, either Dr. Anderson, Ms. Damaris, or Dr. Demo.
Dr. Bader.
Dr. Anderson.
Dr. Barlow.
Ms. Damaris?
Ms. Black.
Ms. Damaris.
Ms. Brandt.
Ms. Damaris.
Dr. Demo.
Dr. Anderson.
Ms. Damaris.
Sorry, I just needed a minute to think over everything everyone had said, just to get a good read here.
You can take a minute, that's fine.
Thanks. Miss Demo.
Ms. Huff.
Dr. Anderson.
Dr. Miller.
Ms. Damaris.
Dr. Anderson.
Dr. Demo. Dr. Demo, sorry.
So we have 1.
Your names are too similar.
So we have 2 for Demo.
4 for
Damaris.
and 3.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so since no candidate received a majority of the votes, we're going to repeat the voting process with the top 2 candidates from the first round. So the top two candidates from the first round were Ms. Damaris and Dr. Anderson. So I'm going to call on Lynn to perform another roll call, and this time, when your name is called, you will state the name of the individual for whom you would like to cast your vote for vice president, either Dr. Anderson or Ms. Damaris.
Dr. Barlow.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Ms. Damaris.
Ms. Damaris.
Ms. Damaris.
Dr. Anderson?
Myself, Ms. Damaris.
Dr. Anderson.
Dr.
Ms. Damaris.
Myself, Dr. Anderson.
Dr. Anderson.
All right, I'd like to congratulate Ms. Damaris on being elected to the role of vice president for the board. At this point, I'm going to hand over the meeting to the newly elected president, Dr. Miller. Dr. Miller, I think we'll shuffle seats after we complete the reorg meeting. So, yeah.
We're on the three. Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Huff, for overseeing the election. We'll move on to our action items for this. 3A, motion to approve the 2026 annual appointments as shown in attachment 3A. This is the annual appointments to committees of the board, to citizens advisory committees, and the board representative. So we've kind of had conversations about that. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any board discussion about this? Does anybody see anything on there that they would like to consider changing at this time? I think we're pretty good. All right, seeing none. Public comment about, do we have any public comment? Anyone who's interested in commenting on this item? No? Seeing no public comment, I think okay. All board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item here, action item 3B, is a motion to approve the 2026 school board meeting dates as shown in attachment 3B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, Huff.
All right, there's a move and a second. This is a pretty straightforward thing. Do we have any board discussion about this? Is the attachment available to the public? Okay, yeah. Yes, Ms. Anderson?
I just wanted to make one comment for the benefit of the public. We do try to meet on the first and third Mondays of the month, but sometimes we switch for holidays and such. And one notable exception this year is October 21st is a Wednesday. We needed to miss a Monday due to a conference, and we're trying an experiment of doing the Wednesday of the normal week instead of changing the week in the hopes of avoiding 2 meetings in a row. So just to point that out, since that's a departure from the norm.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, it looks like we have 3 in August as well, first, third, and fifth Mondays. So any other board comment? No. Public comment on this item on the meeting dates? No. All right, this time, all board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That concludes the business for the reorganization meeting. At this time, I would like to adjourn this meeting, and we will, I think we're taking a picture and coming back to begin the committee of the whole meeting.
Yeah.
I would like to call to order the December 1st, 2025 Committee of the Whole Regular Board Meeting of the State College Area School District Board of Directors. I'd like to welcome everyone joining us in person this evening, those who are viewing remotely. The board held an executive session on November 17th regarding legal, personnel, student placement, and a parent concern. Board members with the agenda before you, are there any changes? I think we want to if we could take the Pledge of Allegiance, so all those who are able, please rise. And yes? Yep.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good. Okay. All right. With that, I'd like to call on the board secretary, Ms. Tressler, to conduct a roll call of the board members present.
Dr. Anderson?
Here.
Dr. Bader?
Here.
Dr. Barlow?
Here.
Ms. Black?
Here.
Ms. Brandt?
Here.
Dr. Dino?
Here.
Ms. Damaris?
Here.
Ms. Huff?
Here.
Dr. Miller?
Here. Thank you, Lynn. So starting with the communications, Megan Shaper will retire in June after 33 years with the district. Since July 12, 1993, Megan has served as the district's food service director. Ms. Shaper's dedication to our food service program in supporting students during their academic learning has been unmatched, said Randy Brown, Finance and Operations Director. Brown credited Shaper for going above and beyond with the district's breakfast and lunch programs, for example, traveling to local produce auctions to purchase fresh fruit and vegetables, and including cultural offerings suggested by students, parents, and employees. She also helped secure local and state grants to support some of the unique offerings, Mr. Brown said. In addition to focusing on the student nutrition during the school year, Ms. Shaper helped offer district families food distributions through the federal government during the summer. Looking back several years ago, Food Services led food distribution with grant funding for the school community during the COVID-19 pandemic, Mr. Brown said. Additionally, Food Services lead the way partnering with the community, most notably the State College YMCA and the State College Food Bank, to assist in food collection and distribution. Mrs. Shaper has been a tremendous asset to the district and to our families, and she will be greatly missed. The board thanks Megan Shaper for her dedicated service and also wishes her the best in retirement. And I can say personally, she has been outstanding. Yes.
Apologies the interruption, or I apologize for the interruption, but I just want to ditto everything in the statement that you just read. And I also just want to recognize that as an employee of the district, Megan was so steadfast in her dedication to students. But in addition to the work she did for the district, she is just an outstanding public servant. And we are really, really going to miss her. And I know that Food Services is ready to carry on in that spirit because she's done such a great job of building community in that department. But I just wanted to give a brief shout out and say thank you, Megan.
Yeah, I'm going to be obnoxious and tag right on because not only has Megan been an advocate for universal school meals, she has also she's taken advantage of every grant program that comes across her desk. All our collaborations, if you have a young elementary student who did Apple Crisp Day and you know what that is, that's thanks to Megan, working with our local farms to bring those apples into our community and have those sessions. She certainly could make sure that our meals meet the requirements and that her staff is well taken care of and still be a great person and walk home from her job at the end of the day, but that is not who she is. And she relentlessly advocates for kids, relentlessly advocates to make food available to vulnerable families, and also to advocate that that happens across our Commonwealth. And she's just a remarkable gem and an example for all food directors in our state. And as Jackie said, she will be highly, highly missed.
On that note, I would like to add my thanks to Megan Shaper as she prepares for her retirement. Megan's passion for feeding children is truly remarkable. For 33 years, we've been fortunate to have her guiding our food service program. Whether she was planning special meals, sourcing the freshest local produce, or making sure students had meals even through summer. Megan has always gone above and beyond for our children. Just as meaningful has been the way she's led her team. Megan lifts people up, builds their confidence, and creates workplace where people feel valued and supported. During her time with SCASD, Megan had set a new bar for excellence and compassion and service to our students and families. Her legacy will continue in the shape of the district far into the future. On behalf of our students, families, and community, we thank her for her extraordinary dedication and wish her the very best in her retirement.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Anybody else would like to comment? All right. With that, I'd like now to now call on Mr. Johnson to share the remainder of his superintendent update.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. State High Assistant Principal Danielle Ambrosia has been named Pennsylvania's 2026 Assistant Principal of the Year by the Pennsylvania Principals Association. This is an exceptional and well-deserved honor that reflects Danielle's dedication, leadership, and unwavering commitment to our students, staff, and school community. Danielle's work exemplifies the values we strive to uphold across the district, and her recognition brings pride to all of us. Congratulations, Danielle. It goes without saying, with the board reorganization, I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to extend my heartfelt thanks to Amy for her dedicated service as board president. Amy, you have been a passionate, unwavering advocate for public education, and our community is truly grateful for the time, care, and energy you have poured into this role. Serving on the board is a significant commitment in itself, and stepping into board leadership requires an even greater level of sacrifice and responsibility. Thank you for everything you have done and for the steady, thoughtful leadership you have provided during your tenure. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. It appears we do not have a student initiative to report this evening, so we'll move on to the legislative update. Jackie, do you have a legislative update for us?
No, it was a pretty quiet holiday, so I have nothing new to add.
Never a bad thing, especially after we got a budget done. Center Regent Council of Governments Liaison Report. Gretchen or Jesse, do you have any updates for us?
Jesse does.
For once, we had a quite interesting COG meeting. COG, just to be familiar with you, the Council of Governments covers almost exactly the same area as the school district, with some minor exceptions. And it's very dependent upon its committee structure to make its decisions. And they are doing a major restructuring of the committees. Two of the committees, facilities and HR, are going to stop meeting because the COG has hired people to fulfill those roles, and they are trying to test that out for about 6 months. One of them that kind of affects us, the one on climate, and the one on what was it, Lucy Committee. I've got to remember what that analogy that stands for. The Land Use and Community Infrastructure Committee. They're looking into whether they ought to merge them, and they're going to have talks between the two committees on how to do that. Climate Action Committee is one we have interfaced with for the solar power purchase agreement. And probably the one that might affect us the most is that they are looking at what's going to happen to the Parks and Library committees, because Whitehall Road Regional Park has been built. That was really what the focus of the Parks Committee was for a very long time. And the funds for the library come through the Council of Governments. They're looking as to whether to merge those two committees, leave them separate, get rid of both of them. That's going to be something they will study and get back to. So this is just the first chapter of this telenovela, and we will have later chapters as we go along.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to hearing all of those. Thank you, Jesse. We now have time for public comment. Each individual will be allotted up to 3 minutes for items related to board business that are not on a consent or action item this evening. For those items, public comment will be held just prior to voting on that item. If you have a public comment, please come up to the podium, state your name and where you reside in the district. Is there anyone who has registered ahead of time to make a public comment? All right. Is there anybody online interested in making a public comment? No? All right. Anybody present in the room in our audience who would like to make a public comment? All right. Seeing none, we will move on then to the committee of the whole portion of our agenda. The first committee will have the Finance Committee. We'll be joined by Randy Brown and Joe Vigileone, who will give us updates on the 2024-2025 draft audited financial statements and the 2026-2027 budget development, because we're always developing for the next year. So,
good evening. Joining us tonight is Christine Zorner from Baker Tilly, who was a manager on the job this year for our 24-25 audit, and she's going to give you a brief rundown of the information that was included in your agenda packet.
Yes. Thanks for having me. My name's Christine Zerner. I'm a senior on this job. I've been working on State College job for, I think, 9 years now. We have a great working relationship with Joe and Randy and the whole team. So thanks for having us out tonight. I'm going to be pretty brief just because we visited on, I think it was last Monday with the Finance Committee with the partner John Compton and the senior manager John Taylor on the job, where we really kind of broke down a lot of the numbers, but we can save some time for questions at the end if anyone does have any. So we were able to issue an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance we can provide, which means that we believe your financial statements are materially stated correctly. So that's a good thing. That's what you want. So we're happy that we can say that. The district's financial position remains very robust at about $43 million in the general fund. And there's about $16 million that is unassigned, which covers about over 2 months of expenses if you would need to cover it, which is what the recommendation is. Your capital projects and your reserve have about $76 million at 6/30/25. So that's for future projects and things set aside that you have going on currently and in future years. There was no new debt in 24-25, which you just paid down the debt, so that's always good at the year end to see that. And then you have your $23 million in capital assets with the $11 million in depreciation. As a whole, I mean, compared to previous years with COVID money and different things, this was a relatively calm year. Of course, there's still lots of things going on. There was kind of one major difference this year that we're kind of issuing two reports. You have two different submissions, one being with Emma deadline with your debt is 12/27. And typically we issue a full single audit financial statement. But this year, just due to not actually the government shutdown, but just general government delays, there's this thing called the compliance supplement, which is what drives our federal testing over your federal funds. Without that, we have no basis to test anything. So unfortunately, we are a little bit on hold at the moment for that. But we've been able to work with the team to break out the reports to have a full financial statement so you can make the submission for the Emma deadline. There is a federal submission called the data collection, or it's a data collection form that needs submitted to the clearinghouse, but you have until 3/31. So, we'll definitely get all of that wrapped up and submitted by then. That is a very quick overview for months and months of work that we do. I think that you guys all had the financial statements. I don't know if you have any questions or comments or things to bring up.
Great, we appreciate it. I know we did, Finance Committee did meet on the 25th, Tuesday the 25th, so some of us, I believe, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Huff, and Dr. Barlow was there as well, so we kind of got a preview of this as well, but if If anybody has any questions about the process, I think the conclusion we drew was that we were very pleased with the work you had done. You guys have any comments over here? Any comments from over here?
I just add, we appreciate the long relationship with Baker Tilly and certainly your diligence and your trustworthiness to work with us as always gives us reassurance. So thank you for all the hard work that you do.
Of course.
I agree.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to add that since I wasn't at that meeting, we couldn't do it without the team behind Joe and I supporting us through all of this. And each year, even though Christine is correct that there were not a lot of hiccups except for on the federal side and getting that completed, we have lots of new things that we are faced with internally. And our team has been able to rise to that challenge, and we thank you. We're thankful for that, and just wanted to share that and that appreciation for those team members as well.
And just for our new members, we do anticipate seeing this audit process happens annually, correct? Yep. Okay. All right. Very good.
So at the next board meeting, then, there will be an action where you will accept the financial statements as presented. And that's, again, it's a normal annual step and an action that is required of us by you.
Okay. Great. Excellent. If there's no questions about the financial audit, we can move on to the budget development. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. See you next year. Yes, thank you.
Okay, good evening. This will be a similar presentation to what was done with the Finance and Audit Committee, which had also given some input in there for some small changes that have occurred, but largely it's the same type of presentation. And as you will become very well aware, accountants never live in the current year. We're either in the future or in the past. We jump from 24-25 to this discussion is on 26-27. So just want to make sure that we're totally forgetting about the current year that we're in for right now. Okay, going through the presentation, my handwritten notes. I think one of the big things that we'll be telling you is that the opt-out resolution we do each year, which basically states we will keep our real estate tax increase within a pre-described level for. Okay, I thought it was, okay, we got it now, thank you. Which will keep our real estate tax increase within a Act 1 dictated level, will occur likely at the January 12th meeting. That Act 1 level is going to be 3.5% for 26-27. Moving forward, basically what this does is it gives the community intent so they understand what you're going to be doing and what you're going to be bringing forward. It basically lays your hands down a few months in advance so there's no surprises to the taxpayers. For the proposed preliminary budget, we're only presenting for the bulk of this presentation the 3.5% increase with some explanation which will be coming on later on, but it's based upon the anticipated growth in personnel cost and the uncertainty surrounding funding that we have seen. As you can see, the prior 4 years of tax increases are also shown below. We picked a metric on what is the impact of the tax increases in the Act 1 increases on the taxpayers. And so the metric we used was the annual Social Security increases for retirees. And what this looks like is over the past 10 years, the SCASD increases have been about 2.36%, and the Social Security increases over that same time period have been about 3.1%. So the SCASD tax increases have actually been growing at a lower rate than Social Security inflationary increases have been occurring. On top of that, over the past couple years, the state has made the property tax rebate program more robust and more financially beneficial to the taxpayers. So that is also another way for retirees to be able to pay and afford their tax bills. This was a minor change to this chart outside of the Finance and Audit Committee from last week. What has occurred with those two lines, the orange line on the top, that is a solid line, assumes a 3.5% increase for the 26-27 year. In the blue dotted line is an increase or a flat budget, no increase for the 26-27 year. And what you can see is the impact of a decision this year in a divergence of those two lines. You can see a gap between, at the end of our 10-year projection, of about $50 million in terms of fund balance. Local revenue assumptions. I had come a few months ago discussing earned income tax growth and how it was trailing what we had done in our projections and had shown a decrease. I'm happy to say that looking at where we are right now through the first 4 months of 2025-26, so we will be in the present for a little bit, the tax increase or the earned income tax growth has moved back up and bumped back up above where our budgeted amounts were. I think this is very good information because it's showing a stabilization versus a continued deterioration in terms of that level of growth. On top of that, our investment income still remains very strong. We were fortunate enough to lock in a lot of our tax revenues in September when they came in, and so we're not going to be in a declining interest rate environment, losing a substantial amount of interest income in this current year, which should lead to a robust interest income amount for this year's budget as well. So the local revenue major assumptions, the assessed value growth is at 0.9%. The collection percentage remains at 7.2%. The reason the 0.9%, the growth was decreased from 1.2% to 0.9% last year was due to the high value appeals that we have been seeing on the real estate tax assessment. We are growing at about 1.2%. The unfortunate part is when the appeals come through, that negates that growth by about 0.3%. We have also, through the current year, assessed the transfer tax, the interim tax, as well as the stability of state and federal funding. The good news is on the real estate transfer tax and the interim real estate tax, we're still within budget amounts and we're looking stable for what we're going to be for this year in comparison to the budget. But we had a very robust year last year, so some of that robustness that we had, the extra dollars we had last year will not occur again this year, at least as we are trending right now. This is the opt-out resolution. It gives you the basic idea of what we will be doing at the January 12th meeting. And this is within the budget timeline, which we had done before. But this will basically be the idea of what the opt-out resolution will be with a maximum of a 3.5% tax increase. Staff is coming forward with a recommendation of a 3.5% increase at this point in time in showing that, which is at the Act 1 index. We're not going to show at a 0 because with some of the items coming up, we're not believing that is going to be something that will be attainable without hurting the long-term financial projections. So the expense assumptions, good news. The health insurance, as we talked about in 24-25, did stabilize from the large increase we saw in 23-24. So we had seen about a 33% increase in 23-24, and then it leveled off in 24-25 at the 23-24 levels. We anticipate utilizing $3 million of committed fund balance to fund 26-27 debt service. We do not anticipate a transfer to the capital reserve fund. The growth in personnel costs continues to outpace the growth rate in real estate assessed value. Inflationary growth is still hovering around the 3% mark. Our assessed value growth is at 0.9%. Costs associated with the expansion of Mount Nittany Elementary and Park Forest Middle Schools are not factored into projections as of right now. Those are still being determined. And charter school funding is assumed stable for the 26-27 budget at this time. So what are the items of focus? Very much of what we just said there, along with the district-wide facility master plan, and then also the inflationary versus deflationary interest rate environment. If interest rates go down, bad news for investment income. If interest rates goes down, it's good news for borrowing costs. So with a major project coming on, it'll just be what it looks like. There's a trade-off in each of those scenarios. So for the multi-year projections, we are seeing that we are having a declining fund balance and that we are still seeing constrained revenues, and there is very unclear direction still at the state as well as the federal level. Next steps, board meeting, we might have a small budget update or a 25-26 update at that point in time of where we are. At the 1/12/26 Finance Committee of the Whole, in the meeting, we will look for the approval of the opt-out resolution. And then we have another meeting scheduled on the 26th. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions, and I apologize. I thought my mic was on at first.
Okay, great. Thanks, Joe. Start at this end of the table. Dr. Anderson. Yep.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Randy. Just for the benefit of the new members, could you talk a little bit about how the school district predicts our state and federal funding for the next budgetary year? Like what numbers do we put in the budget based on funding that we had in the previous year?
Absent information to the contrary, we will be putting in level funding going forward. So as far as we know, our state aid will be assumed as flat. You know, our real estate, or not our supplemental, the real estate.
The supplemental tax, no.
Rebate, the rebate we get from the state, the property tax rebate we get from the state will be flat as well. Then the Social Security and PSERS reimbursements we get from the state will grow with the cost associated with Social Security taxes as well as a PSERS reimbursement, which stands at about 34% right now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So just to clarify too, like on on slide 12, the last point about charter school funding assumed stable. That's pretty standard practice, even though we know there's going to be some change in the cyber charter, but that's just a slice of the charter expenses. Plus, we don't know what's going to happen with enrollment of charter schools. So at this point, we just assume flat.
At this point, we're just flat, yes. And flat is good because even if enrollments go up, our tuition rate typically goes up as well.
Right.
But yes, as we go through this year and understand what some of the changes in the cost to cyber charters this year, we may be able to make some projections that would hopefully decrease our cost as well.
All right, excellent. And also, I just wanted to say to the board that when we were in the Finance Committee meeting and looking at the chart on slide 8, we actually asked the department to put in the dotted blue line just so we would have a point of comparison, what it would look like if we had a 0% tax increase this year, not because we're necessarily entertaining a 0% tax increase because we know our costs are rising, but just to see what it would look like if as a point of comparison. So you'll note that that information doesn't appear on slide 11 in the breakout numbers, simply because it's not something we really have under consideration at this point, but it was just to show you how the line changed.
And if I can add to that, the vertical lines on the slide 8 there are showing where the fund balance goes to zero in terms of these projections. So we try to draw, those vertical lines to give you an idea of where we end up going into a projection of a negative fund balance.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, so I will just add what I often add every time we talk about the budget, and especially in reference to what Jackie said about a 0% increase. So we often hear from the community a question of why do we not do a 0% increase, and we've only done that during the COVID year twice during COVID, right? I was pretty sure it was twice. And the thing that is challenging when community members look at other municipalities and other governmental agencies that have the opportunity to potentially have a 0% increase is their makeup is just very different than the way schools operate. Schools, 80% of our costs are salaries and benefits, and that's a huge portion of what we do. And understandably, salary and benefits increase from year to year, even if we hold the number of positions the same. So healthcare costs for every entity is escalating dramatically, constantly, depending on what happens at the federal level, could rocket out into space in the near future. And so that's a concern. As you've mentioned, PSERS is always an issue that we have to keep in mind, that our contribution to that has escalated over time, although has now somewhat stabilized. But the state now expects school districts to contribute significantly more to that than they did a decade ago. We were in single digits when I first ran for office, and now we're over 30%. So these are all costs that we don't have the ability to control They're not within our ability to control. And therefore, we put ourselves in a situation where zero is simply not an option. And this is the logistics of the way we fund public education in our Commonwealth and in our country. And so our job is to work to make sure that we can continue to operate this district. And unfortunately, that results in us raising taxes every year, not because we want to, not because that's a situation we enjoy. It's because it's what we need to do to continue to operate and offer the programming that we offer to students now, currently, and the level and quality of our district. So, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Amy. Ann, did you have anything you wanted to ask? Okay. Dr. Barlow?
I just want to add one comment to what Dr. Bader just said. The fact that for the most part we've been increasing things more slowly than inflation has over the last few years is a tribute to how well we've done this, and in spite of the pressures that she just described. And I should point out that there are some municipalities that are increasing taxes right now a lot more than we are, including one I'm very familiar with.
Our new board members, do you have any questions? I know it's a lot of tables to start off with. Yes, Ms. Brandt? Okay. Okay. Nothing? Okay.
So, normally, for example, on slide 8, in previous years, we would get maybe like 3 different numbers, like 0% increase, 2.5%, 3.5%, depending on what the Act 1 index is for that year. And I noticed this year, we're given 0 and then the max. And is that because we're pretty certain at this point that 3.5 is really the only realistic option, or why was that choice made to give us just 0 or the max and nothing in between?
I think it's safe to say that from our budgetary pressures of personnel costs, of capital costs, of uncertainty with charter funding, with state funding, with federal funding, that we're going to definitely be closer to the index than we may sometimes wish to be, and definitely above 0. Picking a number in the middle just seemed like it was shooting a dart at a dartboard at this point in time. We need a little bit more information to understand, especially some of the areas where we tend to have some variability and have greater revenues than we expect, such as some of the real estate, the transfer, the investment income. And so it's the worst case. It's tied to, at this point, capping out at the Act 1 index and explaining what that looks like. But we'll be continuing to refine our numbers and hopefully bringing that down as low as possible. But one of the other things that I want to say that some of our veteran board members, Amy, didn't mention tonight, but we are all facing once again, unfunded mandates. There are more and more costs that we are being asked to incur. And we just had a conversation in leadership today about special education and the number of students that we continue to see grow and the exponential growth that we've seen in that area just since COVID. And so, many of you know I've been doing this a long time. I like to give you what I think is, the maximum, the minimum, and maybe a trajectory. I don't feel that I have a pulse on that right now to guide Joe in his projections as we're moving forward. So I think that we need to look at that as a cap and share that with the community, that we're not even entertaining any exceptions, which is a good thing. But we will work as we typically do to try to bring that tax rate down. And throughout the year in our budget cycle, we may introduce some lower tax rates, but for right now, we're just looking at the cap because we're very early in the process.
Thank you, that's helpful.
What are some of the examples of the unfunded mandates? You mentioned special education, and I know that's a big one, but are there any other specific ones?
Well, we'll introduce those terms and those areas more in the budget process. But just to throw out a couple more to you, would be ESL, would be gifted, and some other.
The move to structured literacy, which is really, really critical and important to our Commonwealth, but requires then districts to do PDE, obtain materials, train staff, potentially integrate with special ed. That's a new legislation that's been passed in terms of the move to structured literacy. That's a big one. So oftentimes there are things like that, expectations that are set upon districts without providing the support and finances necessary to then enact those changes. Our IU veterans can share with you, and I'm sure leadership can get to the new board members information about the IU has put together an excellent checklist of our state required mandates. And actually, Mr. Johnson has been quite diligent since coming into the role to make sure that our district has checked off every single of those boxes so that we're in compliance.
Okay. We'll look for that. Any other comments, Ms. Damaris? No? Okay. I did just want to say, given the complexity of the budget process and how you've kind of laid it out, just want to kind of echo some of the comments, my appreciation for the work that you guys do, and especially hearing that juxtaposed with a really sterling audit report. I think we're in a really fortunate position to have your team working with us. So, all right. Thank you both. If there are no further questions, we'll move on then to facilities and grounds. Mike Fisher is going to join us to provide an update on the Mountain Indy Elementary expansion project. And on your agenda, that is item 6A. Welcome, Mike.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, so we're moving along. Just wanted to get some pictures inside now. You can actually see kind of classrooms coming together. And then here's the roof in the south wing as well, as that was behind the west wing. So kind of current progress, conduits being run for the solar array. A lot of the underground stuff is almost complete in its entirety. And then kind of behind the scenes in parallel, we're working on our, FF&E, our furniture, which is that kind of layout is almost complete. So we'll be bringing that to the board here at some point. And then, if you remember the irrigation system we put in, the company came back in, graciously trained us on how to shut everything down. So our staff is now versed in that as well. So next steps, as our last update last month, I mentioned we were behind in schedule. I said about 3 weeks. When the dust all settled, it was more like 5 weeks from the steel deliveries. So we're kind of finalizing our schedule catch-up right now, but right now we're looking at sort of 5 weeks. We've got that down to about 2.5. And that's through kind of paralleling a lot of the painting, the interior stuff, so CMU and drywall kind of at the same time. And then we're trying to look at pushing through laying brick as well into the winter here. So,
Mike, can you say why steel was delayed?
I don't know why steel was delayed.
Oh. My guess would be related to tariffs.
I don't like to speculate.
Okay, fair enough. I'll speculate.
Okay. So again, there's a lot of the branch wiring. So I say branch wiring, it's like receptacles, lighting, that kind of stuff, kind of like the final smaller wires. Keying coordinations, we're looking at all of our lock sets, matching that up with the building. And then we're getting started on kind of non-furniture FF&E. Furniture has kind of the longest lead time items, but there'll be some other stuff, janitorial equipment, that kind of thing as well, that would be included in that FF&E that we're kind of getting started on, that has much shorter lead times. So So next, our next update, I didn't have a concrete. We're still working through some of the subs as far as schedule catch up. But like I said, right now we've gone from that 5 weeks to right now we're projecting at about 2.5. So just so everybody knows, the schedule originally had a clean date of July 1. I think our last meeting, I actually reported out that it was the end of June, but I wanted to correct that. Right now it was in our schedule for July 1, so a little bit off. But so even at 2.5 to 3 weeks, I still feel as though we're close, but we're still within our time period. So,
Excellent.
Questions?
All right. Questions? I'll start on this side. Mount Nittany Elementary questions? Questions from, yep, Dr. Anderson?
For the benefit of the non-construction people in the room and online, can you tell us what FF&E stands for?
Furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
Thanks.
Apologies, thank you.
FE. All right.
I look at it like everything you can kind of move in the building versus everything you can't. So.
Great. It sounds like we're moving along there. No other comments about Nittany Elementary? All right. So Mike's now going to be joined remotely by Jeff Straub from Crabtree Rohrbaugh for the Park Forest Middle School project update. Jeff, are you with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Mike, let me know when you're ready. I believe you were going to pull the PowerPoint up.
Yep, I'm pulling it up now.
Okay.
Add it up. Okay, so just to preempt Jeff here, we just want to provide kind of an overall schedule update with all the permitting and zoning and everything we have to go through to kick this project off, and give you kind of our best update currently. There's still a few unknowns in there, things we can't control, but we have our best foot forward here. So, Jeff, I am on your page 1.
Okay. So we have 4 pages of schedule, which mirrors the update memo that came out to everybody. And as Mike mentioned, we have a lot of items moving forward as we get ready to bid the project, and we wanted to give that update tonight, along with some meetings that we've had with Patton Township just in the last few weeks that the board and administration had attended. So we're going to start off with this first slide, and this is probably the critical path. So items that really need to occur that then is going to govern how we structure the rest of the schedule for the project. And so NPDS, this is sort of our land development as well as erosion and sediment approvals. And we made it, while it's been many months in the process, November 13th was the final formal submission. We had sat down with the Conservation District prior to that. So there's now a 20 business day period, followed by another 107 business days. So all told, we're tracking to mid-May for the NPDS permit approval. At the same time, we're working closely with Patton Township, very complicated site for the new project. So we had a series of meetings with them, wrapping up with a special combination planning commission and board of supervisors, as well as the State College Area School District board and administration were invited on November 19th. And what we are hoping now is that we're on track for potentially an approval in mid-February. For the approval. We're also working through PennDOT for the signalization along Valley Vista. And so we also see that tracking with a mid-May completion for those two long lead items for the project. And I would note both of these are fluid, they're adjusting, but we're trying to use this as our overall template for planning schedule-wise. Okay, next slide, Mike. Okay, so with that, the structure, working to that overall completion, we're making some modest adjustments to other components of the schedule, and we're going to break this into on this page code review, cost estimates. We're going to then follow with Act 34, as well as some presentation, and then scheduling for bidding and construction. So code review, we're actually working towards the end of this week. Completing essentially 100% documents to submit to Center Region Code Administration. We assume that we'll actually be printing at the end of the week and then making submission early next week and starting that review. At the same time, we'll be doing final coordination over the next month or two with all the disciplines while we're waiting on that code review to occur. So we anticipate that review coming back in mid-January, incorporating those comments into the documents, and then potentially being in a position that we could have code approval in mid to late February for the project. Cost estimating, our third-party cost estimator is actually in the process of coming in the next couple of weeks, along with Macero. We are both tracking or have scheduled that mid-December we would complete those two cost estimates. We'll then spend essentially the week or so before the holidays on reconciliation, and then we'll be incorporating that into the master budget and bring that forward to the board in mid-January at this time. Okay. Next slide. Act 34, and we're trying to now point out also some approvals that will be coming to the board for all of you to plan for. So Act 34 schedule, again, we'll have a draft booklet that will tie into that cost estimate in mid-January, and then we would that will allow the board 2 weeks to review the Act 34 booklet, and then we would anticipate a board action on January 26 of approval that booklet, so that we could schedule the public hearing for the Act 34, which is a state requirement for any new construction or major additions and renovation for any school project in the state of Pennsylvania. And then tentatively, we're scheduling February 16th for the Act 34 hearing prior to a scheduled school board meeting at this time. Presentation schedule, obviously we're talking about a schedule update this evening. We'll be doing a final design review in 2 weeks from today with the documents that have been completed, as well as some final renderings, walkthroughs of the building. We have a tentative community meeting on January 6th, which I believe actually has sort of been finalized, potentially weather dependent, for January 6th. And then approval of the final design on the 12th, along with the Act 34 booklet. And then January 26th, again, as I mentioned, the Act 34 booklet. Okay, next page. And that all leads up to bidding and the construction schedule. And again, really, I'm going to sort of go back to that very first slide. Everything's sort of hinging on that May 15th approval for both the MPDS as well as the land development. So that's how we sort of then worked backwards from that. We don't want to sort of bid the project too early. We want to sort of stage it so that we complete it leading up to that May 15th date. So what that means is approval for bidding at the end of January, tentatively January 6th. We release the documents February 10th, and then anticipate receiving bids on March 26th. And then we would be bringing that to the board on April 6th for potential approval. Issue of intent to award letters to the contractors, and then a couple of weeks of contract preparation, final sign-offs. Contractors need to submit all their backup documentation, and that would lead us up to issuance of notice to proceed on May 15th contractually. With that approval on May 15th, then we would start a 30-month construction schedule. And we've been working back and forth with a number of contractors as well as the construction manager, and we're sort of we believe that 30-month construction period appears to be the correct length of the overall schedule, and what that tentatively has us completing the project in mid-November of 2028, with a January 30 or January 3rd, 2029, post-holidays, students would be moving into the new facility for the project. And again, we'll continue to build this schedule further, but this is sort of the overall update to the schedule at this time. So with that, we tried to move through that quickly, and I'd open up to any questions that anyone would have.
All right, great, thanks, Jeff. Questions from this side of the table? Jesse, Jennifer, Gretchen, Rebecca. Yep, go ahead, Ann.
I appreciate everything you provided, and also for the Patton Township meeting, which I found really helpful. I have noted on what is on my page 3, please note the traffic impact study and PennDOT process is not fully known currently. At that meeting, I think one of the individuals said it was looking at maybe 45 days. Do we like literally not know anything more from that meeting to today? And then also, we would know though before May 15th. Is that correct?
Jeff, I'll take this. So we, there was some correspondence back and forth with our engineering team last week. And so the scoping of the traffic study was agreed upon with the township and our team. We completed extra counts, so that's been done. And right now, all the documentation has been passed back to the township for their traffic engineer's review. But at this time, we feel as though we're meeting the warrants. But again, I want to put an asterisk on that.
Yeah.
But all the data that we're seeing is that we would meet the warrant for a signal at Little Lion. Again, asterisks, and it's back. We want to make sure that everybody's in agreement with the township and our engineers, and then we will schedule with PennDOT, and they will have their review.
Yeah, thank you. Asterisks, highlighted, underlined, starred, but still that's super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate the appreciation to Patton Township for the meeting that they hosted and allowed us to come and speak freely at, so we could have an opportunity to hash out some of the concerns and share. And I guess my big takeaway that I wanted to share with the community was just to thank their administrative team and ours as well, which includes Mr. Fisher here at the table, in how well they were working together and collaborating and trying to find as many solutions as we can to make this experience the safe as we can for the community and for our students. Valley Vista is a inherently risky road in general, and we want kids in that community to be safe when they have to navigate it, and anything that we can do as we work through this project that meets those end goals, we're eager to do. And so I just wanted to appreciate their staff because they were very open and generous and working with us and trying to get to the solutions we all need, because this is the site we all have and this is the site we're going to be sticking with. And so that was really positive progress. So I just wanted to, as you say, shout out to them.
Mm-hmm. I want to thank all the board members that attended that meeting as well, and speaking up for all the work the district has done as far as planning. Your expertise in that matter was very helpful in getting this project put forth. So thank you.
Yep. Ms. Brandt?
Yeah, so I just have a couple more questions about the information you already provided. So right now, it's in the hands of the Patton Township engineers. Is that correct? The traffic study.
That is, yes, that is the correspondence that I have in my inbox. Yes.
And then do we have any idea what their timeline is for giving it to PennDOT?
I don't off the top of my head, no, but I can get that for you.
Mike, I can answer that slightly. On slide 1 with the land development schedule, and this sort of ties into the asterisks that Mike mentioned, we're tentatively planned on a February 11th Board of Supervisors approval. That could just slightly, but you'll notice it then says a 90 days to meet conditions and record for PennDOT. That's the typical time frame that would occur. So that's how that leads us then up to the May 15th. So we're being a little conservative, but feel that falls within that schedule right now.
Okay, so we'll find out approximately, if I'm just trying to understand if I get this, approximately by February 11th, whether the Patton Township Board of Supervisors approves it with their vote. And then we find out approximately the middle of May whether PennDOT approves it. Is that correct?
Those are the dates we currently have, but I think, and Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong here, that the traffic study, the data, we could go to PennDOT before we have land development approval from Patton Township. Jeff, is that correct?
Yeah, correct, Mike. I think part of this is, and Gretchen, to answer your question, I think the engineers are being a little conservative, just wanting to not overpromise, but we feel pretty confident that the township is trying to work with all of us as a partner. And so we feel pretty good about the February date, that we're not pushing that too quickly, and that also that there's more than enough time for the PennDOT. And it does appear that all the counts warrant the traffic signal. So this is more about going through the process at this point.
Okay, so it does not have to be approved by Patton Township Board of Supervisors before it gets sent to PennDOT?
I need to double check on that one. I can't fully answer that one this evening. My understanding was we would do the submission after the Board of Supervisors, from talking with the engineers, but Mike may be correct. We might be able to fast track some of those pieces, and I'll need to verify that after this evening.
Let's just, I'm 99%. Let me just triple check before I say publicly that yes, that is the case.
You're 99% sure that it could go to PennDOT before?
Right.
Okay. And I was just curious because if the reason is to be a good neighbor to Patton Township, then that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we're working with them and they're working with us, and it seems like from the meeting that we were all at that it's a very healthy, functional working relationship, which is incredibly important. So if that's what it is, then clearly it makes sense to wait for their approval on or around February 11th. If that's not what it is, and there's no reason not to get it to PennDOT sooner rather than later, then, that would be different, obviously. And then once it goes to PennDOT, is there any reason to believe that since the data are saying that a traffic light is warranted, is anybody nervous that PennDOT, for another reason, would deny it? Or are people feeling pretty confident? Or how do these things usually go?
There's nothing on our radar that would give us pause that PennDOT would not approve it at this point. Not to say that something weird happens, but right now it's not. There's nothing on our radar that would give us pause.
And do the data warrant the traffic light like solidly, or is it like right on the cusp of the numbers of cutoff?
I think it's black and white. They meet. So the engineers are saying that they meet it.
Okay, that's super helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I just want to say kudos to Patton Township staff working with us, the entire time. So.
Okay. Other comments, questions? I did actually have one question, really for Jeff, about the construction schedule. I had heard originally there had, I think, kind of been hope that the construction schedule could be wrapped up in time for that school year that it's going to be opening, and it seems like that's just probably not realistic. But I wanted, if you could just say, like, what what substantial completion means compared to the building being ready to move into, and kind of how much wiggle room there is there. And mostly I'm asking from a concern of, is this date of January 3rd likely to get pushed back if there, like how much room do we have to play with in there, basically?
We feel pretty that that's a conservative date that we can achieve. So substantial completion does mean you could start school the next day.
Oh, okay.
And then what happens is then there's another 60 days for final completion for contractors to do final touch-up painting, things of that nature. And sometimes the contractors are heading out of the building as the teachers are coming in.
Okay.
We don't have that scenario here. In this scenario, we have a month and a half, 2 month crossover. It's a little bit more conservative than actually we had on some of your recent projects.
Okay.
That gives us a little bit of comfort.
Okay.
So,
That sounds good. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay.
All right. We good? All right. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Mike. We'll look forward to those updates coming up at future meetings.
Have a good evening.
Yep. Have a good evening, Jeff. We'll move on to Culture, Climate, and Learning Committee. We're going to be joined by Dr. Bucher, Ms. Yoder, and Ms. Merritt. They'll provide an assessment of our goals 2 and 6 from the Future Ready Comprehensive Plan. Welcome, Dr. Bucher, Ms. Merritt, and Ms. Yoder.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay. Yeah.
You can give it to me.
Let me try this side. I've got 3 ports here. Let's see if this one will work. No, they're not working.
Mine normally does. Well, that would make sense why. Here, I can go straight to HDMI. Maybe. Do you have HDMI, Jonathan? Go ahead. Thanks, Aaron.
Hey, there it is. I think. All right.
Well, good evening, everyone. So this is the second in a series of our presentations as part of our Culture, Climate, and Learning Committee to review the Future Ready strategic planning goals that we had our first year or target year 1 during the 24-25 school year. So tonight we are going to be going over goals 2, which is academic performance in math, and goal 6, which was our academic performance in ELA. And then we will provide time at the end for you to ask any questions. So to start, some of the board members have seen this before. We started several years ago asking our schools to do school-level comprehensive goals that they would focus on the district goals that are created as part of the Future Ready Plan. And, Jonathan would have to click. So he clicked on that. So that is really just an overview of all of our goals, and it has the different target years. So each year, starting in 24-25, we set the bar, and then this year we went about a little bit higher, and we looked at the percentage we needed by the end of the 2026 school year. So again, this year, when we go through these goals, we're really looking at target year 1, but every year we come back to this plan, our schools look at their data, we look at the data. Tonight, we're presenting as district data. So every school has their data. Future Ready just about 2 weeks ago released their information. It is public, but we take all of the information, K-12 per academic,
review that. We'll share that with you tonight to provide our overall percentages to see if we, as a district, met our goals that we placed into Future Ready. I think the most exciting thing
Oh my.
So the most exciting thing for us to announce, and I did look at this when we got this information, and to my knowledge, this is the first year since USA News has been releasing this, that every single school, keep in mind, Delta as of last year was not a school. Its data was dispersed, but every single elementary, so all 8, both middle and the high school, were recognized within the state of Pennsylvania with being in the top 40%, and just very impressive. And again, we stated this, it is really just a testament to the leadership and dedicated staff. It is the work of our teachers that have put the focus in our academics, but while at the same time really maintained a culturally focused and relevant response to making sure that they were focusing on the whole child. And our results have really shown that. So we are really proud of that and are just thankful for the work that our teachers, staff, and administration has put into our overall goals. So I will kick it off tonight by talking a little bit about math. And when I talked about that very first slide, this shows you the highlighted area of the target year for 1. So what we wanted to do, looking at K-12 students, and we'll talk about how we get there, we wanted to see an overall of 70% or higher that were either proficient or had met the growth standard. And I know I talked a little bit about this when we reviewed Acadience and MAP, but I thought I would take a little bit of time again tonight just to briefly describe what we are looking at to determine those ratings. So in kindergarten through 2nd grade, we use what is called Acadience. It's a universal benchmark screener, and it's just an assessment that we give 3 times a year to really look at the foundational skills in both math and literacy. So it looks in early literacy. Amy was talking earlier tonight, some of the different key foundational things, phonemic awareness, decoding, fluency, what we're doing there. And then in math, which we'll be talking about, it looks at both computational fluency and conceptual understanding and combines them for a composite score. So we're using that for K-2, and you'll see some of that data. Then in grades 3 through 8, we primarily use the PSSA. So PSSA for English Language Arts and math, they begin to take that in 3rd grade. And then the growth measure standard, of course, begins to happen in 4th grade. So we look at a combination of are our students achieving overall proficiency, and or are they meeting a year or above's growth. Then when they hit the high school, that is the Keystone exams. And remember, they're an end of a course assessment for literature, for Algebra 1, and for biology. We are not, the science shifted last year, and our Future Ready was really focused on ELA and math, so tonight we'll be primarily talking about it. One thing I think is important to remember, though, is especially with our algebra or our math, our 8th graders take both the PSSA math and the algebra, but their scores are held until they get to the high school. So when you see the overall high school score, some of those students would have taken that Keystone assessment in 8th grade, just to give you a little bit of background. But they're the combination of what we use. So when we report out tonight on math, Jonathan on ELA, those are the assessments that we use to compile this data. When you look at the graphs, if you see yellow, it's kind of, we did the graphs as kind of green is where we want to be, yellow a little bit below. If we would have been far below, we would have most likely placed that in red. But if you look at this, overall, the benchmark was 70%, and we ended up as a district K-12 at 78.61. Our elementary average was a little bit below that. I think it's important to show that, and we have talked at this table of our work with math, and as you know, we're going through a math curricular review, looking at a new resource and new curriculum adoption for next year. But to go a little bit
Oh, I'm sorry. There was our little, I didn't know that was a drop in, but overall 78.61%. So we exceeded that goal. This year's target goal that our schools are working on is 80%. So we're not quite there. But this year we met last year's target year goal. We broke it down to help you see just a little bit. So in elementary, for our PSSA, growth and proficiency, we were above that 70% at 73. Our primary K-2 Acadians is what's a little bit lower. And again, we have recognized that. The math committee has recognized some of those computational and fact fluency is a missing piece. It's kind of like the structured literacy of reading. So we'll be looking at making sure beginning next year, and actually already this year, we've added some of those components within our schools to support that. But overall, our average was 68. Just so you can see, we went ahead and broke down the proficiency and the growth. Overall proficiency was for PSSAs was 68, roughly 68%. The growth was at 79%. And then the Acadians, again, overall, was the 62.67. Moving into secondary, since there is only really just the PSSA and the Keystones, we looked at comparisons of this year to last year when you look at that data, and then also broke it down to proficiency and growth. So the overall proficiency of the two middle schools was 54%. However, both schools showed 100% growth on their growth scores last year. So yes, 54 is not where we want it to be, and there was significant gains from grade level from the students to get the growth score in both buildings. The high school Keystone proficiency score was an 80.6, but the overall growth was 100, which gave them that 90% overall score. And again, you can see that not only did they meet both areas met the 70% or above, they made increases from last year.
So we tried to put some of our action steps, not all of them, but most of them on this slide, so you can kind of see what we've been doing to prepare. This isn't new data to us. We've been tracking this for years. And as part of our curriculum review process, the K-12 Math Committee convened last year and met probably 6 times, I guess, throughout the year and this year. We contracted with IU10 to do an external math audit to help us get additional outside look at our math curriculum and practices. And we're in the process right now of revising the K-12 math scope and sequence, which we hope to bring to you very soon. Actually, at the next board meeting, I believe it's scheduled. So we also have provided lots of training, lots of conference opportunities for teachers. And October 2nd, we had Dr. Paul Riccomini present to all K-12 math educators on retention strategies, it was phenomenal. He's just wonderful. We also led a new resource process, which we'll be bringing to you soon, and we'll talk all about that when we bring it. We restructured the former director of MTSS position into an assistant director of curriculum for interventions. And we feel like that, when we did that this summer, that helped us strengthen the tie between the core curriculum and the interventions that are being used. And Heather Spots is in that position. She was unable to be here tonight. She would have presented with us tonight. And we also just continue to refine the MTSS process to move towards a more integrated approach. And you can see there's some other things there. SCSI is also working with Patan for systemic supports for K-8. And we just keep going. So we had a large flurry of activity and really a lot of PD around ELA. We can see those results have really paid off. We have turned our attention to math starting last year, and we're starting to see the payoff of that. And we'll continue to see that. I am confident of that.
Thanks, Chris. So I'll be speaking about Goal 6 related to ELA. It's a two-prong goal. So looking at that goal, it relates to the second half, the PD plan for developing structured literacy, And also, what I'll be specifically talking about is the percentage of students demonstrating proficiency and meeting growth projections, ELA. So 70% is the target for this particular year. And then we'll have Mrs. Yoder talk about the cadence benchmarking for grades K to 2. So looking at the graph there, focusing on the first goal as far as exceeding our goal, some great work there. So the benchmark, as I said earlier, was 70%. Looking at the graph, the average elementary, 78, average middle, 85, average high school, 93, and then overall across the district was just shy of 96%. So focusing on PSSAs, Acadience, and Keystone literature exams. That 85 drop-in once got me there as well. So I'll be passing the torch here to Danielle to talk about the great work that they're doing in elementary. So she'll be covering this slide.
So again, this just breaks down because elementary has to look at two different sources. The overall combined growth and proficiency for our PSSAs. So that would be proficiency in third grade and then growth and or proficiency in fourth and fifth, coming in at over the 70%. Our Acadience data is actually growing. Again, we put a lot of efforts in ELA when we began to look at the different components of structured literacy, making sure that we were going through the foundational skills and adding them. We added a new resource and really several years ago made some major shifts with our approach. But overall in the average of elementary, although it's not where we want to be. It did end us at over 78%, and we will still be working on that combined score to hit the target goals for this year and then the following school year.
Thank you. And looking at secondary at the ELA breakdown, PSSA's middle level, the middle school's 70.6. PSSA growth for the two middle schools was 100%, which is great to see. Looking at the high school with switching to Keystone, proficiency was at 87.7. High school growth, once again, 100%, which is really showing some of the hard work with our staff and students there and administration. Once again, the secretary group not only met the goal this year, but also showed solid increases over the school year from 23 to 24.
So some of our action steps that helped us achieve that are on this slide. Continued implementation of the new ELA curriculum in K-12. As we continue to work through it, we continue to get better at it and refine it. Structured literacy training for staff. Continued development and refinement of the MTSS process and moving toward a more integrated approach. And also using a structured literacy approach in K-5. And we will continue to review the state mandates and make sure that we meet them. The things that I'm going to be covering on the next slides are things we are ahead of already. We were already implementing training for structured literacy for faculty last school year. And goal 6 is our talking about the part about structured literacy. We did 2 trainings last year on March 7th and March 31st. They were very large trainings, and we trained the required faculty, which were our ELD teachers, K-12, special education teachers, K-12, reading specialists, K-12, and also some teachers with that special 4 to 8 certification were in there too. So we provided those trainings. We also have 2 large cohorts of what's called letters training that are happening right now, which is language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. And it's a really in-depth, very thorough course on teaching structured literacy and phonics. We will plan additional trainings, of course, as we continue to roll out. Our new Title II professional development specialist just joined us last week. She was, her replacement was hired but was held in her district. So finally, Robin DeSabato has joined our office and is getting ready to plan some additional trainings. Some other key points of Act 49, which is structured literacy training. In the new budget, the state has invested in this initiative And you can see on this slide what they have proposed to allot for this initiative. There's also some curriculum requirements for schools. We already meet all of these requirements. So we were ahead of the game. We already adopted a program that meets all of these. And the former curriculum that we were using is under the prohibited line, which we have, moved on to a different curriculum 2 years ago. This is our 3rd year in it. And we will need to share with the state under the new changes that we just learned. We will have to provide this information to the state each year, which curriculum we're using, the number of teachers that have been trained in structured literacy and things like that. So we have our lists, we have all of that information, and we're just ready to share it with them. So
Chris, in the funding that they're providing, the $10 million for
schools.
Is it for, yeah, it just says for schools.
For schools.
Is that intended to be for materials? Is it I know you may not know, and that's fine. I'm just asking if you perhaps know.
I believe, and Randy might be able to help me with this one.
So I ask, so if we presume it's to assist with training and materials, and we were ahead of curve, and we did it 3 years ago, and we invested $500,000. I remember the agenda item pretty clearly, and what does it provide any recourse for those of us that have been ahead of the game to so it could move from an unfunded mandate? Essentially, we knew it was coming, and we did what we were supposed to do, whereas other schools were not quite able to move as nimbly. No criticism, but we were already on that path. Made the investment of $500,000, and it would be really great if they structured this bill appropriately so that those of us who did what we were supposed to do when the first piece of legislation was passed are eligible. So that would be great to figure out and find out at some point, because if there's a way to apply, we would like that money back.
We will do that. Absolutely. I don't know the answer to that. I believe, from what I've heard, high level, that each school is allotted a certain amount.
Yeah.
And then some schools are allotted more based on some sort of formula of funding.
Right, for their need. And so that's not to stomp on you, but to make the point for the wider public, and that we spent $500,000 for a district of, we have overall 6,700 students. Of that, the elementary population is half, a little bit roughly, right? So we're a moderate-sized district, and it cost us $500,000. And our state, to fund this mandate, has allocated $10 million for the entire Commonwealth.
Yes.
And that was just our materials. That did not include our trade time for training staff. Patan did a lot of free training for us, but I'm sure we paid for some training.
Right.
They have to operate. They should get paid. So this is what we talk about when we talk about funded and unfunded mandates. It's the state gets to say, well, we provided funding, but it's inadequate funding. So therefore, from our seat at the table, this is an unfunded mandate for the most part. And also, I just want to say, I am really, 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 really extraordinarily pleased to hear that our former resource is on the prohibited list. And that's all I'll say about that.
So I agree with what you're saying. I will say that we often will do the things that we feel are right for kids, whether they're funded that way or not. We find a way to do that. And I really think that the results we shared, we have lots of room to grow. We always do. Each year we get a new group of students, and we work with them and love them where they are and help them to grow. And I think our teachers are doing just an amazing job at teaching students and making them feel like they belong and they matter in our schools, because I think that's a really important part of learning. No test is going to tell you that. So I think that we have just amazing faculty that are doing amazing things in schools, and it's not always on a test. I just want to say that. But I'm very proud of these results.
Absolutely. That's one of the things that those of us that are on all of those elementary tours, we've gotten to see, and especially the progression over the last 3 years as we rolled in Hagerty and ECRI and these different pieces, the way that our teachers embraced a lot of it, enthusiastically presented it to students, made it fun, made it relevant, made it enjoyable. it's not about the test scores, but knowing that more students are passing the test means that more students are learning to read.
Yes.
And so it's yes and it's both and very much so. I think we have to have some kind of benchmark. And having had a kid that struggled to read and was in special ed for that struggle, and was delayed in receiving the supports that he should have received simply just by the status of where we were at collectively in education about how we approach literacy. I'm really happy that teachers are embracing it the way they are, and the impact that I know it's having, particularly for the 20% of the population that typically has some sort of dyslexic challenges. So, yeah.
That's the other thing that when you look at some of this and the forward thinking of the teams, where we were even 5 years ago, not only with the additional evidence-based practices and the resources that we purchased, the MTSS, the additional time, we have the 3 times a year, we have the universal screener that we're sitting here tonight. There are districts that do not have that, and you really, we were very fortunate that Patton, we had people that were willing to have Patton come in, listen. We continued to just partner and work together and bring that ELA team committee. They spent, just like the math committee did last year, tons and tons of time. And it wasn't the easiest thing, but when teachers begin to see the effectiveness and now the intervention aligns, as we're talking about, it is powerful. And like Chris said, we have room to go, but where we are moving, and even the positivity that we've heard from our teachers now that they've are continuing to figure out that resource. It was a major, major shift. And how do you still give authentic literature and get that in their hands, and they're finding ways to do that. It's exciting to see where we're going.
All right, great. Time for questions? More questions from this side of the table, Ann? Did you have something? No? Deb? All right. Yep, Rebecca?
I have just 2 things. First, as a parent that's in the schools, and my kids are 5 years apart, so my older one was with the prohibited program, and my younger one is with the new. Being in the school when that change happened, the teachers were just so excited, so excited to see how much growth the students had and how much the learning happened, and seeing it from a parent perspective, you could see, my youngest would get so excited to go to school and do ECRI and do she loved it. And you could see the difference in the learning that happened. I also have a child that has inattentive ADD, and so the prohibited learning was really hard for her. And then to see all the changes that you made, I commend you. I can remember the last time Amy ran for board, her and I had hours of conversations about this, because literacy to me is so, if I can put a book in every kid's hand and help them read, that's important to me. So I appreciate all that you've done for this. This is amazing. And to want to continue to help every child rise up it's fantastic. So thank you so much for this. The only question I have is, why was the PSSA used as a benchmark for this? And does kids opting out of that affect your numbers in this? Because I know when we learning more with the kids going through it, how who takes it, who doesn't, how it works. I was just curious if opting out affects how your scores look, and the talking to people about why they opt out, or why they don't, funding, not funding, but seeing that this is helping so much with your work, is your hope to have less kids opt out? And then also, is there other benchmarks you're thinking about using for your math?
So it's a great question. When we reworked this Future Ready, the state did not used to require us to use the futureready.org website that has all of our academic required state mandated data in it. So we were really, our goals for the new board members, last month we focused on our special ed population and some disproportionality, and our ELL population that we were significantly below when we wrote that goal. So we shifted to the PSSA. We get that question asked. We are still using MAP. In the fall, you'll see a MAP report when you're on the board, and we still, our teachers are still using that. That is still a valid assessment. But when you build these goals, you have to use things that are aligned with the Future Ready, and that is PSSA and some of that others. And yes, opt-outs in some of our schools do hurt the overall percentage. So Chris's, she can talk a little bit about it. Her department lead at the high school last year actually showed us the difference between some kids that what our real score was if we could take those opt-out students out, because we have to count them as not counted, but they do count in our overall count for the overall school. So it is something that we get dinged with, and we try to talk to parents, but we don't force anybody. People have the right to opt out, and we, of course, honor that.
Yeah, everything she said is accurate.
So Delta, the data is with the other middle schools. Next year, will they have their own category?
They'll be their own school.
Yes.
And they will have their own, yes, their Delta, just the Delta data will be reflected in their school, middle school and high school.
Yes.
But we'll have a lag, right? Because
that's what, yeah.
Yeah, because I think I asked this at our last meeting, and because they'll take it this year, but the reporting, will we get it at the beginning of next year?
If I'm thinking through the years, it should be
Yeah.
a year from now.
Right.
For this
Like
school
they'll be
year,
taking it now.
We'll be in the next school year. We'll have that information to share back.
Yeah.
As of right now, that information, the Delta scores are attributed to the two middle schools and the high school respectively.
Yeah, so
It'll be interested to see if they do it as one school too, because some schools that house like a K to 6, they don't do an elementary and an intermediate. They do that as a school. And I don't know what junior, senior, I know we did it as two different schools, but I think the state at one point said if it's under one roof, it counts as one. It'll be really interesting to see what the state decides, if it's two different buildings or one, when we get that.
Yeah.
Do they have one AUN or two?
They have
Do you know?
two AUN
Two
numbers, so
AUNs.
it'll be two separate. Even though they're one roof, it'll be two separate.
Okay, good.
It was more about like when the timing is gonna, okay, thanks.
All right. Jesse?
Yes, it was just curious to me that your proficiency seems to increase as the grade level increases, and that was true in math. And why is that? Because I usually think of math as foundational, where if you don't learn so we're supposed to learn in 8th grade, you're going to have a lot of trouble learning what you have to learn in 10th grade. So
It is an anomaly here that we have. You are exactly right. Usually it's the opposite way. If you have gaps and holes in younger grades, that just compounds as you get older. Our data does not reflect that.
is it could it be the opt-outs in the PSSA that more people at the high school level are opting out?
I think there's enough of those to attribute to that kind of consistent. That's been consistent in our data. That's not a new phenomenon for us. I think there's a lot of things, test variability. As you get older, like the Keystone exam, I think is a little more discrete than the PSSA. Mm-hmm. So it's just Algebra 1, where the PSSA tests a wider range, I guess is a good way to say it. And it is a phenomenon. We do a lot of intervention. I like to think that maybe the interventions we've been doing from kindergarten on up are starting to help close the gaps so that kids can achieve, and we're very happy about that. So we'll definitely take that win.
Well, yeah, I know if you intervene,
Yeah.
and know it's, in time it can make a huge difference. But
Yeah.
Deb?
I would just say one explanation that would be consistent with the data is that, the students take it more seriously in high school because the Keystones matter. Mm-hmm. And to the kids, the PSSAs don't matter. And as a parent, I had my kids take the PSSAs, but I told them not to worry about it because it's not going to, you don't want them to stress about it. And my kids very much took that to heart. So I think when the test mattered, they took it a little bit more seriously and they did better on them. So I don't know if that's the reason why, but that could certainly contribute.
And I just want to send a special thank you to the math teachers who do that 1 year Keystone Prep, which can be life-changing for students who struggled with math, because that intervention, those teachers working with those students, my student, they changed his life.
Algebra everyday class?
Yeah, algebra every day. And there's a video of it, and like I've seen it like literally probably 15 times, and I will watch it every time, and I will cry, and I will save it and share it. So just to kind of, like, you passed over the intervention, and I just want to kind of have an amen to that, and thank them.
We have a lot of configurations of classes that Dr. Demo's talking about, and one of them is everyday algebra in the high school, which really helps students who haven't learned math yet. They're getting it, and they're developing, and they have the opportunity to have math every day instead of every other day, and it's a more intensive dose. Algebra 1 is a really important course, as everybody knows, for future things that you might go into. It's a foundational course, and if you don't master that, you're really going to be behind. So we have a class for that. We have classes for lots of things, including our very top learners. So for the whole range, we don't focus on any one particular, like just kids who are behind or just kids who are gifted, but the whole gamut, to make sure that we try to meet the needs of everybody. So I think a lot of our efforts are shown in our data. And I think sometimes that's the untold story that you just said, is the relationships that teachers have with students and the way they can motivate them. If you are walking in a school, it's not uncommon in secondary to see a math teacher sitting in the hallway with the students, with one or more students sitting there in the morning at 7:30 doing math, because they do whatever it takes. Thanks.
I think I saw Maddie's hand. Go ahead.
Just to piggyback on what you said earlier, at least as far as what I've noticed in the high school, is that a lot of teachers have flexibility to work with the students, and students have homework, which then teachers can take back and say, let me help you with this, and I notice you're struggling with, I don't know, X, Y, and Z, and they schedule times to sit down and work with the students, and a lot of the teachers are understanding. And I'm wondering if it's that variability of there's more teachers, the teachers have more time, and the teachers are very flexible working with the students, that would impact that as well.
That's good.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know at the elementary level, they have math every day. And then you had mentioned about the algebra every day for those students that need that. Has there ever been thoughts to bringing that into the middle school? I know there's really that's where my kids fell apart with math.
Yes, so there is some talk of that. We do have a specific class called WIN in the middle school that students can take, so they can have math every day. It's considered an intervention class. So yes.
Question. All right. I did have one quick question, if I could ask, and it's not. In looking at, so first of all, outstanding data, and I'm really glad that you're highlighting the success here. And I think everything that everyone said, especially about the ELA stuff. I also had two kids who were they were in Title I, and they both are thriving. They're readers and writers now, so there's definitely clear results. In the way this is reported, I just had a question. Looking at both Goal 2 and Goal 6 at the secondary level, I see that PSSA growth and high school growth is listed at 100% for both of them.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if maybe that seems from a data standpoint to be almost impossible, just from random variability that it would. But I'm wondering if you can just explain how that's calculated and how it can be that high for both of them. For both the middle and the high schools in both areas.
So based on your track record, basically, every student receives a growth score. And where the state anticipates that student would be at the end of a school year, one school year. Some of our students don't take a test in ninth grade, so it's actually 2 school years. So by the time they take the Keystone, for example, they've had 2 years worth of learning. They far exceed the growth goal.
Okay.
They blow it out of the water. The middle schools, now that's not the case there because they take it every year, 6th, 7th, and 8th. But they're exceeding what the state projects based on their previous tests. They're exceeding what the state thinks they'll grow in 1 year.
Okay, so 100% of students are meeting growth targets. Is that?
No,
That's-
it's not
okay.
it's not 100% of students.
We could look at that. It would be a lot of time to do we started to do that
Right,
in Future
right.
Ready. So when you go to the Future Ready website, there are academic achievement for every school that gives you the proficiency, and then there is a growth score for every single school that says, if when they look at the calculation, and again, in your elementary schools, you're looking at 2 grade levels, but do the teachers make the growth? Did they meet the growth benchmark? What is the growth? And when a certain percentage, which is a significantly high percentage, makes it, you can receive a score of a 100% for the growth rate.
I see.
The calculations, and PVOS is its own little statistical nightmare.
It is a black box, yes.
But it will calculate that enough met the bench to show 100% growth. Or, of course, you can lose that if you dropped in proficiency. A lot of times it comes down to scale score, which
Right.
they say that it is a far more complex data set. But a lot of times you can look at a child's scale score in 1 year and in the other and look at the growth overall. But they calculate that growth score. And then what we did is took every building and then took their proficiency and their growth to get the combined score. And then we broke it down by elementary, middle, and high to show you the differences within the data.
Yeah, and then that helps a lot. Thanks for that explanation. Because I'm also looking at, like, if this is year 1 and we're at 100%, where do we have to go? What's the goal in year 2? 105? I don't think that's.
And it can dip from year to year. I mean, we hope for the growth, but that's going to be hard to achieve again because we met it this year. We have to keep growing them to continue to get that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Other comments, questions? No? All right. Well, thanks very much for your presentation and good discussion. Board members, are you all right? Would you like a 5-minute break? No, so good. All right. We will move along then. So that concludes the committee of the whole portion of our meeting. We actually now have time for additional public comment. Is there anyone in person who would like to make a public comment? No, anybody remotely? No. Okay. All right, then we will move on to our consent agenda. Consent agenda includes several items that we will address with a single motion for approval to facilitate any questions or discussions. We will go through each category individually. Please raise your hand if you need clarification on any of the items as I present each group. So we will start with, typically we begin with approval of the minutes. If there's any changes to the minutes, that's usually pretty straightforward, both from regular meeting and policy development. Next, we have operations. We have the Eastern Mennonite University MOU, this Mount Nittany Health sponsorship, some human resource recommendations. Yes, Deb, go ahead.
Thanks. I have 2 quick questions. For the Eastern Mennonite University MOU, can you just confirm, is it a nursing intern? That was not clear to me from the contract. I'm happy to have any intern, but it's helpful if we know.
Stephanie Beaver's on, is she? It's on the memo,
I don't
but
think so. I think she
okay,
is.
I can speak to it.
It is a nurse.
So yes, it's a certified nurse,
Okay.
nursing person. Yeah.
Thanks. And then my second question, or maybe just a comment on the Mount Nittany Health sponsorship. I just want to say that I've attended a Lunch and Learn before, and it was excellent. And I'm thrilled that we're offering them. It's like these little, this school district provides lunch. The Jana Marie Foundation provided training to parents, staff, whoever. The one that I attended was excellent. And I think it's a great idea to also look for sponsorships. So I'm just happy about the program. Thanks.
All All right. Any other comments or questions about operations? All right. Move on to instructional programs. We have some out-of-state overnight student travel. Any questions there? All right. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Peter, so moved.
Demo second.
All right, that is moved and seconded. Any further discussion among the board? Any public comment about tonight's consent agenda? All right. In that case, all board members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the motion is carried. That we will move on to our action items now. We have 2 action items this evening. The first action item focuses on the calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the academic calendar, 2026-2027?
So moved.
Demo second.
I hear a move in a second. Discussion about the calendar. Do we have questions for, is it Dr. Bucher? Who? We had a presentation conversation about the calendar before. Yeah, go ahead.
And I had emailed Dr. Bucher, and he had gotten back to me with a lot of helpful information about. I was wondering just about the calendar committee, who all is represented on the calendar committee, making sure that there are elementary and high school and middle school teachers on there, as well as community members. And so thank you for getting back to me on that. My one remaining concern is that it seems like if you are someone who celebrates traditional Christian holidays, you don't or rarely need to use a personal day to take a holiday because all of those days are already taken care of on our calendar. If you are someone of the Muslim faith or of the Jewish faith or other faiths, even if the day is off for students, if you are a teacher, you have to use your personal day to take off, like if it's an Act 80 day or whatever. And I know that at the last meeting we talked about how in the contract it was approved that an extra day was given for religious, for this kind of thing, but it just doesn't seem equitable if you happen to be the religion that never has the days off on the calendar. So I didn't know if it's ever a possibility for someone to be able to observe the holiday without using a personal day, that whenever they have like an Act 80 day or some kind of professional development, if that's ever an option to, have it coded as religious observance and not have to use up their personal days. Because as a teacher, I know those are sacred and for your kids' field trips and for, sick days and for all sorts of things, but it just doesn't seem equitable.
Okay. Thanks, Jen.
Good point, but not at this point. We do not have anything like that. We do not provide that for our staff at this point, at this juncture.
Is that something we could revisit or future discussion?
So
yeah.
Having Gretchen and Deb and I were on the contract negotiation committee, and so personal days were certainly a topic of discussion.
Okay.
I'm with you. As an atheist, I would prefer that there weren't tilting in religious holidays, but unfortunately, that's partly our country sets some of those holidays as like universal holidays. Our winter break falls over that holiday. We struggle to staff Good Friday, so Good Friday has typically been a holiday, but not because we want to give it as a religious holiday. It's simply part of the contract includes, and correct me if I have this correct or wrong, we cannot set so there is a limit to how many personal days are allowed, like a percentage of staff that are allowed to take personal days. So it's first come, first serve, and once that cap has been hit, then the employees are told they can't take a personal day on that day, potentially, correct. But we can't do that for religious holidays. That's part of the contract, is that on a religious holiday, we can't deny a personal day over the cap. So Good Friday winds up working out very much that way, that there's historically been such a large percentage of staff that opt to take that as a personal day. We can't find adequate substitutes and staff and run school. So this is very similar to discussions we've had several years ago regarding spring break. Do we take all of spring break that matches Penn State? Do we take part of spring break that matches Penn State? And in that case, we struggled to have adequate student attendance to have instructional days that were meaningful. Similarly, we struggle on certain religious holidays to staff them because that is in the contract that we cannot use that cap on those holidays. So that's kind of like the push-pull and some of the corners, and I'm not judging like the corners, like it depends on which seat you sit in, whether you're painted into a corner, right? So I empathize with both sides, but the district faced challenges too when there's unlimited, allowances on certain kinds of days. So like we used to, the Monday after Thanksgiving was always the hunting holiday because, again, we could not adequately staff. Even when people didn't take PTO, we would have a lot of illness and things on that day. So it was difficult. There was also a lot of other negotiation during the contract negotiation. Deborah Gretchen certainly can help refresh my memory, but there used to be solitary buckets for some from days. There were sick days and personal days and other things, and we lumped a lot of those things together to try and give families more flexibility so they didn't have to, or employees, so they didn't have to say, well, this day is for this reason or that reason. So there was adjustments. It's not perfect for everybody at this point in time, but there was give and take in the negotiation, as there always is, and I think there was progress made from the perspective of both sides to some degree, but it's a struggle.
I guess my concern or my thought is, if it is a day that the students have off, to use a personal day for that kind of a day. I mean, it seems like something. It seems like there should be able to be a workaround, but I mean, I don't know.
We did try. I'm really old, in case you can't tell. So we
you are.
No, not really. We did have at one point when my husband and I first moved here to this state. We taught in another state for a few years, and then we moved here. There was a contract where we had a religious holiday, and you could take that on certain times. I wasn't involved in contract negotiations nor the calendar committee at that point. I don't know why, but that religious holiday went away, but they gave us an additional personal day in place of that. So that's like some history of where that came from.
I guess my thought was, if I'm somebody whose holidays are already covered, I'm never using my personal day I'm never using it to take a holiday, as opposed to someone who happens to have that fall on another day. I don't know. It doesn't seem equitable. And talking with teachers who have to take these days, and one of them that I was speaking to had said, for myself, yes, it's nicer now to not have to write subplans, but it still bothers me that my child is off and I have to use one of my days to be off, and I can't just celebrate at home, without taking a personal day.
Good point.
Yeah. But just so you know, there's consequences for whatever you do. So if you give everybody off these religious days, then you extend the school year, which extends the year for students as well, who are also trying to get into college early, go the camps and things of that nature. So there's a push and pull, and we still have to do 190 days in a school year, so we're not doing school all year round, so it becomes a test of wills, basically, for what days we're going to use, what days we're going to have in service to provide PD that makes sense in the school calendar. So it's a matrix. You got to basically be on the calendar committee to understand all the dynamics of it and why certain things are certain ways. And it does have a lot to do with getting subs, teachers, to enough of them to actually have school when the majority of your stakeholders are of a certain religion or background. So.
Yeah, Maddie, go ahead.
Okay. I have two things. One, kind of, again, what you were talking about earlier, I think it might be interesting if there's a way for certain staff members to apply for religious holidays and then get that personal day back, because you shouldn't have to use a personal day just because you're a different religion. This is a little off topic, but I'm going to throw it out there again. I really think that we should add student representation in further committees. And I know I talked about it last time, and I know I bugged you, and I'm going to keep doing it. You're welcome.
keep bugging.
Yeah. Always. But I do think that students should have a say on this as well. Thank you.
Matt, if I could comment on that. After the last board meeting, I sent an email to John at Delta, and he'd suggested that idea about a month ago. And the superintendent and I had that conversation about having student representation. So I shared with Mrs. Black that we are looking to do that next school year, barring any opposition. So thank you for bringing that forward.
Yay, Maddie. The system works. Excellent. All right.
And
yeah, go ahead.
I guess I would add, I appreciate the comment, Jonathan, that you added at the end of the memo, and to the point of the overarching concerns about religious holidays. We have some religious holidays off for students. We have not had to be consistent about what those days are, because we've been fortunate the way those holidays have happened to fall the last several years on the calendar. Previous to 3-4 years ago, there were no holidays aside from Good Friday and Christmas that happened to fall over winter break that were religiously based, that were given as days off. So that's relatively new in our district, and we've never, we haven't looked at that all-encompassingly and talked about where the boundaries are going to be. It's kind of been taken on year by year and kind of lucked out and worked out within the box that Mr. Johnson is referring to, because certainly we have to get seniors out at a certain time so that they can go to military academies and early college programs and things like that. So our end date is really quite firm. Our start date is somewhat negotiable, but yet I think a drastic change to our start date would have to have some pretty profound community discussions. So this issue about religious dates is a concern, and I do think it's one that we have to have a community-wide discussion about. And so I voiced that to Mr. Johnson and Dr. Bucher, that we probably need to be ahead of the curve, and rather than hope for the best each year and have it work out, there's a good chance, just like we've butted up against Grange Fair recently, that there's going to be a year where some of the holidays that we've been giving recently for certain religions may prove to be difficult to do and meet our time and day requirements within the box that we typically adhere to. So I appreciate that they're going to work with the Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Director and have some conversations and try to work on nailing that down a little more firmly as we move forward, because I think it's important to be clear with our community, what they can expect from year to year, because it's kind of shifted, because the dates have kind of shifted, and we need to be clear about what those boundaries are going to be. So I know for my spouse, who doesn't celebrate a traditional Christian holiday, his only option in his profession is to take a personal day if he wants to observe those holidays. So we're fortunate in education that we're at least, try to give some flexibility to students.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jen.
And I just wanted to clarify, I cannot even imagine the amount of work that goes into being on the calendar committee and trying to balance everything. And I think it's great that in the last few years we have been able to incorporate other holidays that aren't your traditional holidays. And I guess I definitely understand the fact of staffing and not wanting to extend the school year, but just to drive this point home a little bit more, if there's any way we can look into on the Act 80 days when there are no students there, to be able to look at on those kinds of days when we give the students off, but the teachers are still there for professional development, if there's some kind of way that, because that wouldn't extend the school year, and just putting that out there to think about.
Yeah, Gretchen, go ahead.
I have no solutions, but I just want to, I guess, commend Rebecca or Jen for the bravery in coming out and saying that this is an extra burden for teachers who belong to a religious minority. I mean, that's just factually what it is, because they have to use a day off. Other teachers who don't belong to a religious minority don't have to do that, and so you've heard a lot of the reasons why, and but when you're coming in new, because I remember like 10 years ago or whatever, it just sounds like excuses. And so I don't know, now that I'm, coming towards the end of my time here, it's interesting to look at it and say, I get why, I totally do. I've been here for 10 years. On the other hand, it's not equitable. And so I think it's good at least to say it out loud, admit it, say yes, as Mr. Johnson did, yes, this is not equitable, this is how we do it, and at least to say it out loud. So I don't know if I've always stayed far away from the calendar committee myself, far away. This is the first time I've ever made a comment about the calendar, but I think it's good to say it for what it is, and that's the truth. So good for you for saying it out loud.
Further,
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge, I believe Dr. Anderson actually asked that very question when the calendar was first presented at the last meeting. That very issue that on Act 80Ds, that they would have to miss the professional development because they were taking a personal day, and that was not fair. And also her concerns were about whether or not they were going to have a means to make sure that they also had the professional development that they need. So I just don't want to overlook the fact that that question actually was raised at the last meeting.
Do you want to follow up? Anything?
I was just going to say the same thing. I certainly agree with Jen that it's an important issue. I'm glad she raised it again. I understand the constraints, but that's why I asked the question last time. And to repeat what I said last time, ask the calendar committee to consider looking into ways that we could accommodate not putting professional development on those days. And again, I'm not fluent enough in the professional development that we require at the particular times of year, but if that could be one of those days where I think some of the professional development we require is stuff that we do online, that people could do a little bit at their own leisure, right? But we provide them a day and a time to do that. Could we potentially put like the PD that is online so that they could do it on a different day or on their weekend or whatever? Does that make sense? So that they didn't, I don't know if that works. But anyway, that was my only thought. I leave it to the professionals to figure out how to do the professional development.
Oh, boy.
So anyway, thanks.
All right. Any further discussion, questions about the calendar? Good discussion. And hopefully we can, and I do just want to say thank you to the calendar committee. I know there's a lot of challenging pieces to fit together. So it's one of those things where if everybody comes out of it unhappy, you've done your job well, right? Yay.
And once you get on it, you never get off.
Oh, good to know.
It's like a lifetime appointment.
I'm going to leave that to other people. Okay. That's right. There's no other questions or discussion among the board. I can open it up for public comment. Is there anybody here who would like to make a public comment on this item? All right, seeing none. Board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the motion carries. We move on to agenda item 13B, which is a motion to approve the acceptance of the PFMS commissioning agent. This is shown in attachment 13B. Do I have a motion?
Anderson, second.
All right, moved and seconded. If we have any questions, Mike Fisher can come up and let us know about this bid. It looks pretty straightforward. If you, yeah, any clarification needed from Mike? Nope. Good. Okay. No discussion or questions. Is there any public comment on this item? No public comment. Seeing none. All right. Board members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion carries. And that will conclude our agenda for this evening. Looking ahead to future meetings, we have on December 15th, our regular board meeting here at 7 p.m. in Panorama Village Boardroom. And the following day on December 16th will be the monthly meeting of the Policy Development Committee. That will be at 10:30 a.m. here in Panorama Village Boardroom also. And with that, I would like to adjourn the meeting of the State College Area School District Board of School Directors to an executive session. Please have a good evening, everyone.